Well, hello, students, and welcome back to Intermediate English Conversation. That is for week eight in Intermediate English Conversation. We're going to talk about a lot of things today, and this is also our Zoom week. So if you can attend our Zoom, please do attend our Zoom. Um, I sent a message to you guys about Zoom a few days ago, so I hope that you got it. A few of the Zoom classes are going to be a little bit later because I have to teach the freshman classes. As you probably already know, Namso University is starting some of the freshman classes, so we need to be aware of that. So I'm going to be running back from the university classroom, the Hwajongwan, to my home where I have Wi-Fi because we don't have any Wi-Fi at Namsul University, or not very good Wi-Fi. So when I do your Zoom class, I need to have my Wi-Fi. So might be a little bit late. So if I don't come, just wait. I will be there. I will be in the Zoom class so that we can have conversation. Don't worry about that. Okay. Today we're going to do a couple of different things. We're going to check the homework. Then we're going to wrap up talking about food. You guys remember we had homework from last week, and it was about food from Unit 3 about food. We're going to talk something about food and maybe do a little matching game, which we're going to do again if we have time in our Zoom class. So I think if you pay attention to this activity in the PowerPoint, you're going to be able to do better in the Zoom class. And we're going to talk about what's coming up next and do some stuff about fear and goals from Unit 4. Okay, we'll see how much we have time for. I prepared a lot of stuff, so what we're going to do is we're going to do this lesson today, video lesson, and then we're going to do a Zoom class. And then next week, I'm going to post just a short video, and I'm going to post the video of our Zoom class. So next week is going to be a little bit of a break time for you guys. You don't have to study as hard. I'm going to post a short video, and I'm going to post a video of the Zoom class, I think. That's my plan for now, so that we don't have to do so much next week. We just have to do a little bit of work next week, and you can take a little break, study for the quiz, which is coming up next, okay? Okay, so this is the little kind of food matching activity. Since we were doing a unit about food, I think food, as you know, is such an important part of the culture, right? It's so important part of the culture. So I want you guys to be like a little bit familiar with food and talking about food and with different dishes in the West, right? Different dishes in America or Canada or England and or around the world. So some you're very, very familiar with, and some you're not very familiar with. So let's see how many of these you can get. How many of these you can get, and how many of them you can understand. You can see in the background there, very lovely French meal in the background, with or Tuscany in Italy, with the beautiful Italian or French countryside in the background. Kind of atmosphere for our spring eating. Okay, so let's look at food matching and let's see how many that you can get and how many you can remember. Like I said, try to remember these because we're going to do them again for your memory in the Zoom class, and I might put a couple of them on a quiz or on the final test. Okay. Okay, so we have a couple of different things here. On the left-hand side, we have the first part of the dish, and on the right-hand side, we have the second part of the dish. So what I want you to do is look at the first column. So we'll look at fish. I want you to tell me which of those things on the right side goes with fish. Do you know which one of these? So fish and cheese, fish salad, fish and waffles, fish a la mode, fish pizza, fish peppers, fish parmesan, fish and gravy, fish and eggs, fish benedict, fish breakfast. Well, I know Korean people and Japanese people like fish for breakfast, but we don't really eat it. fish and jelly, fish wings, fish beef, fish and meatballs, and fish and chips. What is it? Well, let's click. That's right, it is fish and chips. You guys probably know that, right? I'm sure you do. Okay, what is this one? That is buffalo wings. Buffalo wings. It's a kind of like a bulldog. It's invented in Buffalo, New York. Buffalo wings. What's this? That is roast beef. Roast is like, well, you guys say roast chicken is 통닭. 통닭, right? This is roast beef. Roast beef. What is this? Sometimes nowadays I see brunch is getting more and more popular in Korea, so I see this on some Korean brunch menus. What is it? That is called Eggs Benedict. Eggs Benedict. It's a kind of ham and eggs and cheese on a roll or on a bun, like what we call an English muffin actually. This one is called, well, you know, peanut butter and jelly, or peanut butter and jam. So we have something that's called jelly. You guys call jelly like a candy, right? But jelly is also like a sort of jam in English, but it's a little bit more squishy, a little bit softer than jam. But we call it peanut butter and jelly. It's kind of like American sort of kids food, you know, American kids food. And I think I see Korean kids eating it now too, actually. But usually you don't use the word jelly, right? This one is called a Caesar salad. Yes, a Caesar salad. I see that also on Korean menus nowadays too. I think you definitely know this one. You remember? Spaghetti and meatballs. Spaghetti and meatballs. Kind of Italian dish, but sort of like, this is like a really Italian-American dish. Italians are a very big part of America, so they sort of made their own Italian-American food. Just like Koreans made their own Korean-American food. You know this, obviously, I think is one of the most popular foods in Korea for my students, right? Pepperoni pizza. What's your favorite pizza topping? This one is a little bit different. It's steak and eggs. Steak and eggs. I think this is one that a lot of my guys would really like to eat. It's a kind of American Southern breakfast. Steak and eggs. Looks like too much maybe, right? Definitely too much for me because I'm a vegetarian, but even for non-vegetarians, maybe it's too much, right? This is apple pie a la mode. Apple pie a la mode. So a la mode means it comes with a scoop of ice cream. It means like a la mode is like French for by itself. I don't know why we call it that actually, but that's the name of it. Apple pie a la mode. This one is another southern food. It's fried chicken and waffles. Yes. I know sometimes my students look very shocked, but I think sweet and salty thing, I think my students will really love. And nowadays I saw a few places in Korea selling this. Chicken and waffles. Not bad, right? This one is called stuffed peppers. By pepper here, we mean what you guys call pimang or paprika. We in American English call it just a pepper. So it's stuffed with like rice or vegetables or meat and some cheese. And it's like roasted afterwards in the oven. That's called stuffed peppers. Also look not bad. This one is what you guys call, I think students don't like it, gacci, right? Gacci? Eggplant. And this is a kind of Italian dish or Italian American dish called eggplant parmesan. I think look better than gacci, right? Look better than like a Korean banchan eggplant. I like eggplant. I like Korean eggplant too, but a lot of my students sometimes if I ask them, what's the food you really hate? They say they hate eggplant. But I think this eggplant, you might like it. You might like it. Maybe. This one is very typical of the English breakfast. English breakfast. So it's a little bit different than American breakfast. It usually has some mushrooms, some ham, and some really different than America is the inclusion of those baked beans. Baked beans. And sometimes they'll include like what we call black pudding with it, which Americans really don't like. But black pudding is a very British food. It's a really, it's sundae. Basically, it's sundae. So yeah, Americans don't really like it, that kind of thing very much. But this English breakfast doesn't include it. But often English breakfast will have a sundae with it, black pudding. This one is another American Southern dish. It's called biscuits and gravy. So gravy is a kind of sauce made from like a salt and wheat and like the juice from the meat. They like fry it up and they put it on the biscuits. Sometimes eat with eggs and bacon too, and has like a little pieces of sausage in it. It's a very heavy breakfast. I think if you're going to do a long day of hard work, this is a great food for you. And this is, I think, also eaten in Korea nowadays. If you a person who likes this kind of thing is called um, wine and cheese or cheese and wine. Especially French people think cheese and wine go together very well with each other. Maybe you think so too. Maybe you think so too. Okay, so let's look at your homework that you had to do on page 29. First, we had the active grammar in the red box. So you should have taken a photo of this and uploaded it to our class webpage. If you haven't done it, please do it today. Please do it today. The first one is I'm going to work for him over the summer. Talking about something happened in the future, remember we have to use the present continuous even if we're talking about the future. It's another way in English that we can express time over the future. 2, I'm not going to stay there for longer than a few months. I'm not going to stay there for longer than a few months. So here we're talking about the future, but using the negative. What are you going to do next year? And remember that I said for you to prepare the questions for Zoom class, talking about your future goals in the summer, next year, and in 5 years, I think is what I said, right? So please prepare those questions for the Zoom class so we can talk. The next part, part 5, number 1, they're going to visit their son in Australia in the summer. What is he going to do this afternoon? Number 2. Are you going to see Sarah this weekend? So put the question word before the pronoun and then the ing verb when we're making a question with present continuous. We're going to play tennis on Sunday afternoon. We're going to play tennis on Sunday afternoon. They're not going to work abroad this summer. They're not going to work abroad this summer. When are you going to visit me? Again, another question. Putting the question word first, then the auxiliary verb or helping verb, then the pronoun, and then ing verb. Anne isn't going to catch the train. So here we need to make sure that we have our infinitive auxiliary to coming before the main verb, catch the train. Okay, so again, if you have not already taken a photo and upload that, please do. Many of you did, and many of you sent me messages about how to do it. I was a little bit late to make a slot for it, but I remember many of you did send me a message. So if you have not uploaded it, please do now. Okay, and this was not homework, but on page 34, you usually have a review. I want you to look at page 34 right now, actually. I want you to go ahead and look at page 34. On page 34, it says, part 3, it says, combine the two sentences to make one sentence with a relative clause. Use what, that, or where. And sometimes you have to cut out a word or two. Okay, so look at page 34 and let's take a look. It says number 1, a waiter brought our food, he was friendly. A waiter brought our food, he was friendly. So how can we combine these two sentences into one sentence with a relative clause? What's the smoothest way to do that? The waiter who brought our food was very friendly. Okay, we're joining the waiter together with the action here, brought our food. What about number 2? This is a restaurant. John asked me to marry him here. This is the restaurant where John asked me to marry him. 3, a train goes to the airport. It runs every 20 minutes. Now, how can we join this? Well, a train is a thing, right? So the train that goes to the airport runs every 20 minutes. Next, this is the corner. The accident happened here. In a corner, what's a corner? Well, this way, by corner here, we mean like corner of the street where two streets meet. Is the corner, and the accident, we're probably referring to an automobile accident. So how can we join these two sentences? Corner can be a place or a thing. It depends on how we look at it. So you could say this is the corner where the accident happened. It's probably the best fit for this type of sentence. Okay, so I went ahead and we did this because it's a kind of hint that I'll probably put something on the quiz or on the test or on both that has you do some task like this, or has a bunch of mixed up letters and words and has you put them together like this, okay? That's a big, big hint. Big, big hint. Got it? Good. Okay, so we're going to look at Unit 4, Survival, on page 37. Page 38 to 39, let's look at the reading section here. It's called Going Up, Going Down. Well, first of all, you know what's basically happening in those pictures. Yeah, well, you can guess. It's something related to it's something about, right, diving, scuba diving. Have you been scuba diving before? Possibly. Some of you are a little bit scared. Maybe snorkeling, right? It's a little bit easier. It's a little bit easier. Okay, so I'm going to read the story here. Not too hard. Let's read it along. You can read along with me. It says read the articles and mark the statements below true, false, or don't know. Well, the first one, it will say the one going up. The one that says going up. That's a little bit easier to do, right? A little bit easier to do. It says going up. In 1953, Sir Edmund Hillary and Tenzing Norgay climbed to the top of Mount Everest. Right, as you know, Mount Everest is, of course, the tallest mountain in the world. The next challenge was to climb it without bottled oxygen. This was the goal of Austrian climbers Peter Haber and Ronald Massert. Doctors said that they were crazy and told them not to try it. They tried it anyways. On May 8, 1978, they were about 800 meters, that's 2,600 feet, from the top of Mount Everest. They woke at 3 a.m. and began preparing. It took them 2 hours to get dressed. Every breath was precious, and they used their hands to communicate. Climbing was slow. Nestor thought he was going to burst like a balloon, right? Burst is like explode. At 8,800 meters, they stopped and lay down every few steps because of the lack of oxygen. But between 1 and 2 in the afternoon, they had achieved their impossible goal. They reached the top of Mount Everest without oxygen. Okay, wow. So almost impossible, but they did it. Let's take a look at the next story. So this one's about going up, and the next one's about going down. Most people can hold their breath long enough to dive to the bottom of a swimming pool. But on August 17, 2002, Tanya Streeter went a lot deeper. The 29-year-old held her breath for 3 minutes, 26 seconds, and became the world free diving champion. She dived 160 meters below the surface of the sea. During the dive, her lungs shrank to the size of oranges. So they shrank, they got smaller, shrank to past of shrink. Her heart slowed to 15 beats a minute, and she sang her national anthem, her Igga, in her head to control her fear. Tanya says that her mental strength is more important than her physical strength. I'm a very determined person. When I decide to do something, I do it. Redefine your limits is my motto. Redefine what you can do. That's my motto. Those are my words that I live by. My words that I live by. So take a look at that story if you have your book open. And let's think about the answers. Hebler and Messner didn't listen to doctors. True or false? Well, that's true. Remember, they didn't listen to doctors. If they listened to doctors, they would not try to climb Mount Everest without oxygen, right? Second one, it took them 2 hours to go 800 meters. Well, that is, of course, false, right? That is, of course, false. Took them a lot longer. The third one, Tanya Streeter holds the world record for holding her breath. Well, we don't know about that. We know she holds the world record for going the deepest in the sea, but not necessarily for holding her breath. She was afraid during her life. True, of course she was afraid, but what did she do to stop her fear? Yeah, she decided to sing her national anthem, the national song. And she feels that being physically strong isn't the most important thing, right? Not necessarily physical strong, but mentally strong was very, very important for her. It was very, very important for her. All right, well, let's look at page